For decades, the joke about Brazil has been that it's the country of the future and always will be. Despite enormous natural resources, it has long displayed an uncanny ability to squander its vast potential. Now, it's beginning to look like Brazil might have the last laugh. While most of the world is consumed with debt and unemployment, Brazil is trying to figure out how to manage an economic boom. It was the last country to enter the Great Recession, the first to leave it, and is poised to overtake France and Britain as the world's fifth largest economy. Its outgoing president may be the most popular politician on the planet, and with the World Cup and the Olympics on the way, Brazil is about to make its grand entrance on the global stage. When most people think of Brazil, they think of its passion and excellence in soccer. Not of skyscrapers in Sao Paulo, the financial hub of a fledgling economic superpower. They think of the pulsating beat of the samba and carnival, not commodities or the world's largest cattle industry. They see the beaches of Ipanema and Copacabana and breathtaking vistas.
It's quite a view.
Yes, incredible, huh?
Not Brazilian tycoons like Ike Batista, who has the best view in Rio, not to mention a net worth of $27 billion. With most of the world's economies stagnant, Brazil's is growing at 7%, 3 times faster than America. It is a huge country, slightly larger than the continental U.S., with vast expanses of arable farmland, an abundance of natural resources, and 14% of the world's fresh water. 80% of its electricity comes from hydropower. It has the most sophisticated biofuels industry in the world, and for its size, the world's greenest economy. Brazil is already the largest producer of iron ore in the world and the world's leading exporter of beef, chicken, orange juice, sugar, coffee, and tobacco, much of it bound for China, which has replaced the U.S. as Brazil's leading trade partner.
And Brazil has the size to match China's appetite.
You have
it's a big dragon on the other side.
You have everything they need.
We have, yes. You need a Brazil to basically fulfill the Chinese needs.
Batista, who has interests in mining, transportation, and oil and gas, is building a huge superport complex north of Rio with Chinese investment that will accommodate the world's largest tankers and speed delivery of iron ore and other resources to Asia. But it's not just commodities that are driving the Brazilian boom. The country has a substantial manufacturing base and a large auto industry. Aviation giant Embraer is the world's third largest aircraft manufacturer behind Boeing and Airbus, and a main supplier of regional jets to the U.S. market. Ike Batista says the one thing that Brazil could use more of is skilled labor.
We have to create more engineers. In my oil company, I'm importing Americans to weld our platforms.
To weld the platforms?
Yes, there's a lack of welders. We're walking into a phase of almost full employment. This country has created almost 1.5 million jobs this year already. It's unbelievable.
Brazil has seen periods of prosperity before, only to have the bubbles burst. It spent billions in the 50s and 60s moving its capital to a barren savanna near the middle of the country where it built Brasilia, a futuristic city right out of the Jetsons. Then it borrowed billions more to develop the country's interior. Corruption and ineptitude eventually led to a financial collapse, 2,000% inflation, and at the time, the largest financial rescue package in the history of the International Monetary Fund. Then a few years later, this man walked into the president's office. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, known simply as Lula, is a former metal worker with a 4th grade education and a doctorate in charisma.
When you took office, there were many businessmen both in Brazil and abroad who were very nervous about you, who thought that you were a socialist and that you were going to take the country sharply to the left. Yet these people now are among your biggest supporters. How did that happen?
Look, every once in a while I joke that a metal worker with a socialist background had to become president of Brazil to make capitalism work here. Because we were a capitalist society without capital. And if you look at the bank's balance sheets for this year, you will see that the banks have never made so much money in Brazil as they have during my government. The big companies have never sold as many cars as they have during my government. But the workers have also made money.
How have you managed to do that?
I have found out something amazing. The success of an elected official is in the art of doing what is obvious. It is what everyone knows needs to be done, but some insist on doing differently.
One thing obvious to Lula was the social and economic chasm separating Brazil's rich and poor. He gave the poor families a monthly stipend of $115 just for sending their children to school and taking them to the doctors. The infusion of cash helped lift 21 million people out of poverty and into the lower middle class, creating an untapped market for first-time buyers of refrigerators and cars. But he was also far friendlier to business than anyone expected, encouraging growth and development and maintaining conservative fiscal policies and tight banking regulations that left Brazil unscathed by the world financial crisis. And he also charmed the international committees that awarded Brazil the 2016 Olympics and the World Cup of 2014, political victories that announced the country's arrival as an international player and will present some challenges for Brazil's next president. She is Dilma Rousseff, Lula's former chief of staff and his hand-picked successor, who was elected in October because he was ineligible for a third term.